Vanessa Carter had always prided herself on being sharp, analytical, and one step ahead, qualities that made her one of the top private investigators specializing in financial fraud in Miami. She had built her career from the ground up, working for high-profile clients and corporations, uncovering scams and ensuring justice for victims of financial deception. But despite her professional expertise, Vanessa had a blind spot. Her husband, Logan Carter, a charming and ambitious luxury wealth manager, Logan had swept her off her feet 6 years ago, and she had trusted him completely. When he came home one evening, excitement in his eyes, telling her about a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity in Dubai, Vanessa didn't hesitate to support him. He claimed that an exclusive investment firm in the UAE had offered him a high-ranking position, one that would elevate their lifestyle to an elite level. Logan insisted that they liquidate all their assets to facilitate a seamless transition, selling their home, withdrawing savings, and cashing in investments. It made sense, didn't it? They needed a fresh start. Vanessa, who had spent years uncovering financial fraud, saw no red flags. Why would she? This was her husband. He assured her that it was the best decision for their future, and she believed him. After all, wasn't that what marriage was about? Trust, sacrifice, and building a life together? The days leading up to their supposed move to Dubai were a blur of preparations, packing boxes, canceling subscriptions, and saying goodbye to friends. Yet, something gnawed at Vanessa. Logan had been distant lately, taking mysterious phone calls late at night and brushing off her questions with easy smiles. But she convinced herself that stress was to blame. He was about to start a demanding new job after all. Besides, Vanessa had always been the logical one, the one who calculated risks and assessed situations with precision. There was no reason to doubt the man she had built a life with. Or so she thought. The night before their flight, while organizing last-minute paperwork, Vanessa noticed an unfamiliar email pop up on Logan's laptop. The subject line sent a chill down her spine. "The transfer is complete. See you in Monte Carlo." With trembling hands she opened it, unraveling a truth that shattered her world in an instant. Logan had never intended to move to Dubai with her. He had stolen everything, and, worst of all, he wasn't alone. Vanessa's breath hitched as she scrolled through the email thread, her vision blurring with disbelief. The sender, Serena Dupont? The name struck her like a slap. Serena was no stranger. Vanessa had met her once, briefly, at a high-profile gala Logan had invited her to last year. At the time, she was introduced as a wealthy art dealer, effortlessly draped in designer couture, flashing a diamond-studded smile. Vanessa had barely given her a second thought. Now, as she read through the messages detailing months of deception, secret bank transfers, and elaborate real estate purchases in Monte Carlo, she realized she had been played. Logan and Serena had been planning this for nearly a year. Her hands trembled as she clicked on another email. "The wife suspects nothing. She thinks we're moving to Dubai. By tomorrow, she'll be out of my life for good." Vanessa swallowed hard. Her heart thundered in her chest as she glanced around the apartment. Empty, stripped of everything she had built, her savings, investments, even the retirement fund she had meticulously grown, all gone. Logan had pushed her to convert everything into liquid assets, promising it would make their move easier. The only thing it had done was make it easier for him to vanish with her money. She stormed into the bedroom, where Logan stood zipping up his sleek black suitcase. His posture stiffened when he saw her, but he recovered quickly, his face a careful mask of indifference. "You're not packing for Dubai, are you?" Her voice was eerily calm, despite the fire raging inside her. Logan sighed, barely sparing her a glance. "Vanessa, let's not make this harder than it has to be." She scoffed, disbelief mixing with fury. "You stole everything from me. Everything. And your plan was to just disappear?" He finally met her gaze, his expression unreadable. "It's done," he said simply, rolling his suitcase toward the door. "How long?" Vanessa asked, her voice sharp, steady. "How long have you been planning this?" Logan hesitated, but she saw the flicker of guilt, brief, almost imperceptible. Then, with a slow, deliberate sigh, he admitted, "About a year." A whole year, 12 months, of lying to her face, pretending to love her, pushing her toward financial decisions that only benefited him. She had spent years tracking down fraudsters, and the biggest con artist had been sleeping next to her the whole time. Vanessa's nails dug into her palms, rage overtaking the initial shock. "The money's already gone." Logan gave her a smirk, cold, unbothered. "Of course it is." She felt like the air had been sucked from the room. "You'll land on your feet," he added, as if it were some consolation prize. "You always do." Then, without another word, he walked out, leaving Vanessa alone in an empty apartment, an empty bank account, and a heart full of fury. But Logan had underestimated her, and that was about to be his biggest mistake. Vanessa stood frozen in the middle of her empty apartment, Logan's final words echoing in her mind. "You'll land on your feet. You always do." As if that excused what he had done, as if stealing everything she had worked for was just another minor inconvenience she could brush off. Rage simmered beneath her shock, but it wasn't enough to silence the gut-wrenching reality. She had lost everything. Her condo was gone, her accounts wiped clean, and her career, once stable, now felt like quicksand beneath her feet. How had she, a financial fraud investigator, missed the biggest scam of her life? But Vanessa wasn't the type to sit in the wreckage and wallow. If Logan thought she would simply accept defeat, he clearly hadn't been paying attention all these years. Determined to take control, she packed a small bag and drove straight to her Uncle Ray's detective agency, a tiny, cluttered office on the outskirts of Miami. Ray, a retired private investigator, had taught her everything she knew about tracking criminals and following money trails. When she arrived, he took one look at her, noticed the fire behind her exhaustion, and didn't ask questions. He simply poured her a drink and waited. As Vanessa paced the office, she laid out everything she had uncovered so far. The fraudulent bank transfers, the offshore accounts, the Monte Carlo address Serena had used. The betrayal had been meticulously planned. But Logan had made a crucial mistake. He had stolen from someone who knew exactly how to hunt people like him down. With Ray's help, Vanessa began retracing the money trail, her fingers flying across her laptop keyboard as she hacked into old joint financial records, searched through digital footprints, and scoured public property databases. It didn't take long to confirm her worst fears. Logan and Serena were living in Monte Carlo, spending her money on a luxury penthouse, designer suits, and overpriced champagne. The images on social media of Serena sipping cocktails by an infinity pool nearly made Vanessa hurl her laptop across the room. But anger wasn't enough. She needed evidence. That's when she made her next move. Julian Torres, a forensic accountant and an old acquaintance who owed her a favor. Within hours of contacting him, he had confirmed that Logan and Serena had used offshore shell companies to funnel Vanessa's stolen money into fraudulent luxury real estate schemes. Logan hadn't just conned her, he had been running a high-end investment scam, taking money from other unsuspecting clients who thought they were investing in exclusive property. Now, Vanessa wasn't just seeking revenge, she had a mission. And if Logan thought he could walk away unscathed, he was about to learn a very painful lesson. Vanessa barely slept as she worked around the clock, transforming Ray's small detective office into a full-fledged war room. The walls were soon covered with bank statements, wire transfer logs, fake investment contracts, and offshore shell company connections. Each red string on her investigation board connected another layer of deception, and at the center of it all were Logan and Serena, basking in stolen wealth in Monte Carlo. But she wasn't going to sit back and let them enjoy their luxury. She was going to destroy them. Her first step was gathering ironclad evidence. She met Julian Torres, the forensic accountant, at a downtown cafe where he slid a flash drive across the table. "You were right," he said, lowering his voice. "Logan and Serena aren't just spending your money. They've been scamming investors for years." Julian had uncovered a string of fraudulent transactions, proving that Logan had laundered money through fake high-end property deals. The couple had lured in wealthy clients under the guise of exclusive real estate investments, only to siphon the funds into their offshore accounts. Logan hadn't just betrayed Vanessa, he had stolen millions from others. And that meant this wasn't just a personal crime anymore. It was a case for international law enforcement. Vanessa took the evidence to Agent Patel, an Interpol investigator specializing in financial crimes. She sat across from him in a sterile government office, hands gripping the edge of the table as she explained every detail of the scheme. Patel listened intently, occasionally glancing at the documents she had provided. When she finished, he leaned back, rubbing his chin. "This is enough to open an investigation," he said. "But we need more." Logan and Serena are careful. They've layered transactions through multiple accounts across different jurisdictions. If we don't catch them in the act, they'll slip away before we can freeze their assets. That was when Vanessa made the most reckless and daring decision of her life. She would go to Monte Carlo herself. Despite Ray's protests, despite Julian warning her to let the authorities handle it, Vanessa knew that no one else would be as relentless as she was. She had spent years catching con artists, and she knew their weakness: greed. If she could get close enough, she could expose them before they had time to run. Using a fake identity, Vanessa posed as a high-profile investor looking to move millions into luxury real estate. It didn't take long for Serena to take the bait. Through carefully planted messages and referrals, Vanessa managed to set up a meeting with Serena and Logan at an exclusive Monte Carlo resort. When she walked into the lavish penthouse suite where they entertained their wealthy clients, it took everything in her not to show her rage. Logan didn't recognize her immediately. Her disguise, along with her new European accent and altered appearance, was enough to throw him off. Serena, always the businesswoman, launched into an elaborate pitch about how their investment firm could guarantee exponential returns. Vanessa played along, nodding, feigning interest, all while secretly recording every word. Then, when the moment was right, she leaned forward and smirked. "Sounds like a great deal. Maybe even better than the one you pulled on me." Logan's face drained of color. Serena's smile faltered, and in that moment, Vanessa knew she had them right where she wanted them. For a moment, the room was silent, save for the soft hum of the luxury suite's air conditioning. Logan stared at Vanessa as if he were seeing a ghost. Serena's manicured fingers clenched around her wine glass, her perfectly poised confidence cracking. Vanessa let the moment stretch, savoring their panic before she continued, her voice cold and deliberate. "I've spent weeks tracking your every move," she said, placing a small recording device on the polished marble table. "Every offshore transfer, every fake investment, every stolen dollar. You thought you were untouchable, but I'm here to let you know, your time is up." Logan tried to recover, letting out a forced chuckle. "Vanessa, let's not be dramatic. You don't have any real proof." Vanessa slid a thick envelope across the table, cutting him off. Inside were bank statements, emails, shell company records, and fraudulent property contracts, all linking them to a multi-million-dollar luxury real estate scam. Logan's smirk faltered as he flipped through the damning evidence. Serena, ever the strategist, leaned forward, trying to regain control. "All right, Vanessa," she said smoothly. "Let's talk. There's no need to escalate this. we can come to a mutual agreement." Vanessa tilted her head. "You mean, like the agreement where you stole my money, ran off to Monte Carlo, and thought I wouldn't find you?" She let out a dry laugh. "No, Serena, we're past that." Before either of them could respond, Vanessa reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. With one click, she sent an email blast to every investor they had defrauded, attaching the incriminating documents. Within seconds, Logan and Serena's phones began buzzing with calls, messages, and panicked emails from furious investors. The scam they had spent years carefully orchestrating was unraveling before their eyes. Logan shot out of his chair, his face red with anger. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" he hissed. Vanessa stood, grabbing her purse with a satisfied smirk. "Yes. I've just set fire to your entire empire." The chaos didn't end there. Agent Patel and a team of Interpol officers were already en route to freeze their assets. The moment Logan and Serena tried to access their funds, they would find their accounts locked. No more private jets, no more luxury estates, no more stolen wealth. Serena was the first to break. Desperate, she attempted to flee to London, trying to withdraw what little cash she could before the authorities closed in. But Vanessa had anticipated that too. Interpol agents intercepted her at the airport, arresting her on charges of financial fraud and conspiracy. Meanwhile, Logan's world crumbled around him. As his desperate investors flooded the Monte Carlo resort, demanding answers, he realized he had no escape route left. No more accounts to drain, no more stolen fortunes to live off of. He had made one fatal mistake: underestimating Vanessa. Later that night, as Vanessa sat on the balcony of a quiet cafe overlooking the Monaco skyline, her phone buzzed with a message from Agent Patel. "Serena's in custody. Logan won't last long on the run. You did it." Vanessa exhaled, the tension finally lifting from her shoulders. For the first time in weeks, she felt truly free. The courtroom was silent as the judge delivered the verdict. Logan Carter, guilty. Serena Dupont, guilty. Vanessa sat in the back, watching without an ounce of sympathy as the two people who had stolen everything from her were sentenced to prison for financial fraud, conspiracy, and grand larceny. Logan's once pristine suit was wrinkled, his face hollowed by weeks of stress and defeat. Serena, still dressed in designer despite her circumstances, refused to look at Vanessa, her usual smirk replaced by a blank, seething expression. They had lost. When the judge banged the gavel, it was over. Vanessa walked out of the courthouse, inhaling deeply as the weight of the last few months finally lifted from her shoulders. It wasn't just about getting justice for herself. It was about making sure they could never do this to anyone else. Thanks to her investigation and Interpol's intervention, Logan and Serena's stolen assets were seized, and the money was being returned to the victims of their scam. Some of it, including part of Vanessa's stolen savings, would take time to recover, but she had made peace with that. The most important thing was that she had won. In the weeks that followed, Vanessa received a job offer from Isabelle Laurent, her former boss at a top private investigative firm. "Come work for me," Isabelle had said over coffee one afternoon. "You exposed one of the biggest financial fraud rings in Europe, Vanessa. You'd be an asset to any firm." It was tempting. The pay was astronomical, the reputation prestigious. But as Vanessa sipped her espresso, staring out at the city skyline, she realized something. She had spent her whole career working for others, helping others build their empires, chasing justice for people who could afford it. Now, she wanted something of her own. So instead, Vanessa took a risk. She started her own private investigative agency. With her connections, skills, and reputation, it wasn't long before her agency took off. Her first clients? A group of Logan and Serena's former victims, who had trusted her more than they ever trusted the police. Within weeks, Vanessa was solving high-profile fraud cases, taking down criminals just like the ones who had nearly destroyed her life. And with every case she cracked, every corrupt executive or scam artist she exposed, she reclaimed her power. One evening, back in Miami, Vanessa moved into her new beachfront home. Paid for not with stolen money, but with her own hard-earned success. As she unpacked, her phone buzzed with a new client inquiry, a hedge fund executive who suspected his business partner of fraud. Vanessa smirked, already planning her next move. From betrayal to revenge, from revenge to justice, and from justice to rebirth, Vanessa Carter had not just survived. Vanessa stood on the balcony of her new beachfront home in Miami, the evening breeze carrying the scent of salt and victory. It had been a long road to get here, from betrayal and devastation to revenge and justice, but she had made it, stronger, wiser, unbreakable. She swirled a glass of wine in her hand, staring at the horizon, reflecting on the woman she had become. For years, she had dedicated her life to catching criminals, tracking fraudsters, and bringing justice to others. Yet the biggest con of all had happened right under her nose. The old Vanessa, the one who had trusted too easily, sacrificed too much, and believed in love over logic, was gone. In her place was someone sharper, more ruthless, someone who knew that trust wasn't freely given, it had to be earned. Her phone buzzed on the table beside her. A new email, a high-profile client in need of her services, another fraud case, another trail of deception to unravel. Vanessa smirked as she scanned the details. People like Logan and Serena would always exist, but so would people like her, the ones who hunted them down, exposed their schemes, and ensured they never got away with it. A familiar voice interrupted her thoughts. "You're really doing it, huh?" Ray leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, watching her with pride. "Your own agency, your own rules." Vanessa smiled. It was about time. Ray chuckled. "Damn right it was." As the Miami skyline shimmered in the distance, Vanessa raised her glass to her reflection in the window. The woman staring back at her was no longer a victim. She was a force to be reckoned with, a hunter, a survivor. Logan had once told her she would always land on her feet. He had no idea just how right he was. Vanessa took a sip, picked up her phone, and accepted the case. Her story wasn't over. It was just getting started. The story of Vanessa Carter is a powerful reminder that betrayal is not the end, it is a beginning. When Logan stole everything from her, Vanessa could have fallen into despair, letting the weight of deception break her. Instead, she chose resilience over defeat, strategy over emotion, and justice over revenge. One of the key lessons from her journey is that blind trust can be dangerous, even in relationships. Vanessa was a seasoned investigator, yet love made her overlook the very signs she would have spotted in any other case. This highlights the importance of protecting oneself, emotionally, legally, and financially. Another crucial takeaway is that power comes from knowledge and action. Rather than wallowing in anger, Vanessa used her skills to turn the tables on her betrayers. She proved that the best way to defeat those who seek to exploit you is not through vengeance, but through calculated intelligence. Finally, Vanessa's story teaches that adversity can forge strength. She not only reclaimed her life, but built something greater, a career, independence, and confidence she never knew she needed. Her experience didn't just define her, it refined her. The ultimate lesson? Trust yourself, know your worth, and never underestimate your ability to rise again.